Hi there, welcome to The Nation. I'm Jessy Chahal. Last year in 2020, the Prime Minister announced Jalinan Digital Negara or Jendela, a plan to upgrade the nation's digital communications infrastructure. Under the purview of MCMC or Malaysia's Multimedia and Communication Commission, Jendela is a 5-year initiative under the 12th Malaysia Plan. Today I'm joined by Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, Chairman of MCMC, to discuss home-based teaching and learning, acronymed PdPR in Bahasa Malaysia, and of course the way or the journey forward. Dr. Fazlul, welcome as usual, and thank you for your time here today. Interesting topic, of course, in the new norm, home-based teaching and learning. First things first, as Chairman of MCMC, how do you view the current state of affairs in the country from the perspective of technology, infrastructure, lawmaking, and even assertive or aggressive internal will to bridge that or to address the digital divide, even the knowledge gap?
Thanks for having me back here. I think first and foremost we need to look at the context. Okay? We are now in a situation where COVID-19 is ravaging the economy. It's ravaging the way we live our lives. Okay? So in that context, then we have to ask, is the infrastructure ready? Is the lawmaking things are all in place? Of course, is technology adoption at the right level, and a whole myriad of things that we have to look at. Obviously, when something as profound, as unexpected as like COVID-19 hitting us, we will never be ready. Okay, but had we not gone through this whole COVID-19 situation, we probably wouldn't realize that we were also falling short. Okay, we were pretty much in our comfort zone, and today we are all struggling to adjust to the new style. So let's look at technology. From a technology standpoint, many of us are familiar with technology, but there will always be a digital divide amongst the population, right? And today, because of COVID-19, which knows no boundaries, it hits the rich or the poor all the same. And because of that, that digital divide that may have been there is now compounded, and we see a lot more stories of people, the have-nots, struggling. Okay, and I'm quite sure there are people who have all the technology, they struggle in a different way. Okay, so everybody will have their own challenges, and lawmaking, laws as laws are, will always be lagging. Okay, against a particular technology or a particular situation, and because of that, we have to live with whatever policies and laws that we have today, and then kind of like fix it as we try to plot try to fight the battle of COVID-19, as well as making the adaptation of adoption of new technology as we have today.
Okay, MCO 2.0, or rather the second edition of the lockdown, if you would like to put it that way, has brought about some or perhaps many grouses that was initially raised during MCO 1.0 in relation to home-based learning. Of course, it was a big shift during the first edition of the MCO. How much did we learn from that experience? And what changes has MCMC sort of personally or particularly done to ensure that these valid changes or necessary changes or changes in demand are adopted or implemented in round 2 or MCO 2.0?
When you look at the online learning, okay, itself, it's again, it's a big topic, okay, and there are many parties involved in that whole ecosystem of online learning. You've got the educators, you've got parents, you've got students, and of course you've got the in-between, i.e. the technology, right? What I can then say from a perspective of MCMC is what can we do with regards to the technology bit. So we are talking about infrastructure, and we need to appreciate that infrastructure can never be built overnight. Okay? We've gone through a whole year of COVID. We kind of celebrated the year a couple of days back, all right? And along the whole 12 months, we were fighting on all fronts. So when you talk about infrastructure, yes, we have tackled places that we can tackle for quick fixes. That may have helped some people, but I will admit that there will always be people who are still struggling because of the poor quality of the infrastructure. As much as we try to fix all that in double quick time, it's not a small gap that we are trying to cover. Okay, so there will always be stories in the media saying, "Oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, I've got to climb a hill." Okay, and sometimes it's also a case of awareness. Okay, and also a case of attitude. Some people may have a facility a kilometer down the road, but they say, "I want my services at my home." Okay, but this is a situation where we are in a situation where you probably can't be like a normal situation. You need to go out and do things differently. Okay? And there are also situations where services are highly available, but the providers have not marketed enough. Okay? Like there was a case where there was a service that they could that was only 100 meters away, and when they flagged up the problems, we then help make sure that the service provider served the customer, and that was resolved in 3 days. Okay, so some people do get some quick fix, some don't. But having said that, that's not the only thing that we do. We have to continually build out the infrastructure, which is what Jendela does, and we've been doing that. And again, like I said, patience is still required because it will take a bit of time, and the runway is probably going to be 2 to 3 years at the very least. So you won't see that impact immediately, but hopefully that effort as we do the quick fixing as well as the long-term planning, we would actually help us to be a lot more ready when the country is able to overcome.
That's right. The timeline is 2025.
Yes.
What would you say are some of the important lessons learned from the previous MCO moving into this time around?
What I would say,
rather the introduction of PdPR.
I think to me, as a parent, the lessons learned would be maybe going 100% online may not be the answer. Okay, it seems simple, but it's not as simple as that, because you have the teachers struggling, okay, to pump out the content. You've got the students struggling trying to download the content, and then you got them both struggling trying to interact with each other. Okay, because if it's 100% online, given that the infrastructure still needs to be fixed, the infrastructure is not able to meet up to the new demands on the infrastructure, so it will take a bit of time. But technology of old is still available. For example, broadcast. We have a lot of channels available. We could use the broadcast channel. Yes, it is not interactive, but it is a form of teaching over a different medium. And maybe the educators could revisit that and see how could they create a hybrid of broadcast plus on-ground interaction with the students within the schools nearby.
We'll be back after these few messages right here on The Nation. Our topic today, PdPR, or home-based teaching and learning. We'll be right back.
Meili is a university student in Kuala Lumpur. She needs to visit her grandmother in her hometown next week. However, Meili has an exam scheduled at the same time. She plans to revise her lessons during the trip through online learning via video. Meili is worried about unstable internet access while traveling. Introducing Jendela, a government initiative to improve Malaysia's communications infrastructure and 4G coverage. This move will reduce the digital divide and enable cities, suburbs and rural areas to receive better quality broadband services. Jendela will be rolled out in phases. The 3G network will be gradually terminated as the 4G network is expanded to give Malaysians access to high-speed mobile lines throughout the country. With Jendela, people like Meili can enjoy uninterrupted online services all the way back to her hometown. This digital transformation will raise the people's economic status and advance the country's socio-economic progress.
Welcome back to the Nation Jendela. In the studio with me is Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, Chairman of MCMC, here with me to discuss home-based teaching and learning, or PdPR, and the way forward. We discussed quite much at length prior to the break. We're talking a little bit about comparison of MCO 1.0 and now 2.0 and the differences, or rather some of the challenges that MCMC has taken note of in terms of PdPR. But looking into the future, Doctor, do you feel that Malaysia will be or is ready to embrace PdPR?
I believe we will be, and we are. All right. First and foremost, we are resilient people. Okay, when we will learn. And we also realize that moving out of COVID-19, digital transformation will be the name of the game. Okay, and like it or not, we will live our lives differently. Okay, we will learn differently, and there will be a mix of both PdPR as well as face-to-face. Okay, because you cannot have 100% all PdPR, and technology will then dictate that you can't have everything all face-to-face. Okay, so there'll be a mixture of both. So are we ready? Yes, we will be ready, because we've now been exposed to the full immersion of PdPR, and we know that probably the full immersion may not be all the only answer. You have to combine both. So just like in ICT, we used to talk about click, and then suddenly we say, click and mortar is the way to go. So the pendulum swings to the left and to the right, and finally you'll find that the pendulum needs to drop in the middle, and that's probably the middle path that you have to take.
What would you say are some of the major initiatives under Jendela?
The biggest initiative for us is actually getting the fiberization going, because that to us is the network that will provide a future-proof network. Spectrum mobile networks will always be there, but it is never going to be future-proof, and spectrum in itself is always limited. So we'll always do a kind of like an upgrade and catch up all the time. So the biggest thing that we're trying to move is fiberization, and God willing, if we get it right, we'll at least the infrastructure level will be closer to what we can see in South Korea, or even Singapore for that matter.
Having said that, at what stage is that at, and how much of a challenge has it been?
It's a long haul. Okay, we've got 9 million premises in the country. Okay, today we've fiberized 5.4 million. So that's only 60%. Now imagine that we've still got 40% more to chase for the next 4 years.
60% in the past 1 year?
No, 60% built up out of a couple of years. Okay, so we ramped in the last 4 months, we ramped up by 400,000 premises. Okay, so this year we're targeting 1.2 million. All right, so but still it's a long haul, and our target by end of next year would be 7.5 million premises, which would account to 85% of the premises.
Looking back, what are some of the big solutions or issues that MCMC has managed to successfully resolve or sort out?
Again, Jendela is 5 months old. All right. So what we've done within that 5 months is actually getting a lot of buy-in from our stakeholders. And when I say stakeholders, we're talking about authorities at the state level. Okay, and this is where we've managed to convince some states, and they've made very positive moves by making telecommunications a third utility. But we've not been able to, however, convince the man in the street. Okay, today the state government of Negeri Sembilan said they had to basically cancel a lot of approvals for the build out of towers. Why? Because the local population says, I don't want the tower behind my house. And suddenly you're stuck with the situation, because you will not get the approval to build out the towers, because the people themselves will say, I want the service in my home, but not in my backyard.
Is that an issue of perhaps looking at the blueprint or the plan?
No, it's people having a false belief that having towers near their house is bad for their health. Okay, so these are education that we constantly need to undertake. Okay, because all it takes is just one person, okay, on the ground in a given area, who would make a complaint against that infrastructure. Therefore, the local authorities must take an action to also serve the rights of that person.
So that's some of the challenges or red tape that you're facing. On another note, how do you get the buy-in of private sector players? You know, looking at builders or private organizations, how do you get their buy-in to ensure that Jendela is successfully rolled out?
When you talk private sector, there are two parts to it. Okay, you've got the service providers, which is their natural business. Yes, they are convinced that going down to Jendela is good for their business. Then you've also got another set of private sector players, i.e. the building owners. Okay, so they too need to. So we are also reaching out to them, telling that moving forward, when you build out a building, you need to make sure that the buildings will actually have fiber in the building, right? Because you do not want to use copper in the building. And third, we're also making sure that we have the rules for approvals that would actually impose on both private sectors certain rules that will have an impact whereby telecommunications would be at the level that is right for people to use at a high speed with a high quality.
High speed, high quality, that perhaps is something needed for, you know, maybe businesses to run, but at the ground level, where students are logging on to Zoom and people are getting onto different platforms to work from home, 4G would be sufficient.
4G would be sufficient, all right. And I would say this, okay, I will like to always impress on people that when we work from home, please use a fixed broadband service coupled with Wi-Fi at home, which allows you to move from the front of your house to the back of your house. Many people try to substitute mobile broadband with fixed broadband. Okay, so it's like if you want to travel on a two-wheeler or you want to travel in a car, okay, and then you can't complain, why do I get wet when I travel on a two-wheeler? Because you can't stay dry when it rains on a two-wheeler.
Quite nicely put. Time for another quick breather. We'll take one just right now. Make sure you come back to us right here on the Nation Jendela.
Muthu is a senior citizen living in the suburbs. At home, he spends a lot of time online connecting with his grandchildren who live in the city. When Muthu goes downstairs to get a recipe from his wife, the internet access is disrupted and his video call is cut off. Introducing Jendela, a government initiative to improve Malaysia's communications infrastructure and broadband coverage. This move will reduce the digital divide and enable cities, suburbs and rural areas to receive better quality broadband services. Jendela will be rolled out in phases and will involve the improvement, expansion and connectivity of high-speed coverage. This will ensure widespread coverage and connectivity nationwide. Malaysians will be able to access high-speed fixed and mobile broadband throughout the country. Additionally, all fiber service providers will continue to lend their support by upgrading their network capacity and deploying more base stations to meet the increase in 4G and 5G traffic. This will pave the way for future technology adoptions such as wireless and fixed wireless access and 5G to achieve the country's digital agenda. With Jendela increasing the reach of fiber optic services, Muthu can upgrade his internet services and get the latest internet hardware such as mesh Wi-Fi. He will be able to serve the internet anywhere in his house without any service disruption. This digital transformation will raise the people's economic status and advance the country's socio-economy progress.
Welcome back to the Nation Jendela. Under the purview of MCMC, Jendela is a 5-year initiative under the 12th Malaysian Plan. And for our discussion today, I'm with Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, Chairman of MCMC. We're discussing home-based teaching and learning, or PdPR, and the way forward. Doctor, how will the implementation of Jendela help to address the remaining concerns of the rakyat? And I'd just like to underline that concerns are plenty at this point.
We've got a whole bag of concerns at this point in time. All right, as they say, one can never boil the ocean. Okay, therefore we need to fix it in proper bits and pieces. So what we're doing is that by doing Jendela, taking the Jendela approach, is a measured approach. Okay, it's aggressive, but it's still measured. So we try to fix the shortcomings, and we know that for coverage for homes. Hence the point I mentioned just now about making fibre to all premises passed. Second, people still want to use mobile connectivity. Therefore, the network needs to be at a higher level, i.e. at 4G. So we're talking also at a higher level of close to 100% coverage on 4G. But we also accept that terrain of the country isn't going to be equal all over. So there will be about 3 to 4% parts of the country where you can't have fixed broadband going there, neither can you have the mobile broadband going there, but you will have to live with maybe satellite-based broadband, which is not as good as the first two technology. So these are things that will happen, and we are putting that in play. We are front-loading a lot of things, so that's a lot of work that we're doing up front. Hopefully it will then, you will see the impact maybe 18 months to 24 months down the road. Okay, so commercial, not a problem. But it is when you go to the rural area, and if you go to into a remote area, people say, what's so difficult, just go there. Have anybody gone to Baram? Have anybody gone to Song?
How long does it take the team to set up, in terms of a rural area, as you've just mentioned?
Okay. To get into a place without any equipment could take you 3 days. You bring in equipments, and you're not talking about small equipments, so it will then add. And don't forget, the equipments are not available on site. It needs to be brought from elsewhere. So all that leads to the additional time. And don't forget, you need to do engineering. Many of us have not gone into the very far reaches of the country. Okay, we cannot visualize what it is like until you've been there and you said, whoa, it's not so simple after all. Okay, so hence it depends on where we are in the country. Some areas you can do it faster, some areas it will take you a lot of time to do that.
But it's important, of course, to reach out to these areas, because
obviously
they are the ones that also require connectivity.
We're trying our
yesterday.
best. Okay, so we did everything needs to be done like yesterday. Okay, unfortunately yesterday has passed, so we need to do it today.
Where do we go from here? What is the way forward, Doctor?
I think the way forward for us is, as users, we need to appreciate that we need to use the right technology, the right network for the right function. Okay, so what I'm saying is, sometimes we say, oh, we have this, we have, but I don't have this. No, and in technology for broadband, there will always be two forms of technology: fixed broadband or mobile broadband. Okay, and therefore, as a user, we should have both services, because the nature of how we use it may differ. As I gave the example between a two-wheeler and a car. You can't do what you want to, you can't travel as far, okay, on a motorcycle as you would in a car, because they provide different types of comfort and capacity, right, and capability. So likewise, both networks are important. One cannot substitute the other. So therefore, moving forward, fixed mobile connectivity is the way to go, and therefore we as nations need to adopt that and accept the fact that we will have to have two types of services, or two types of services within the way that we live our life.
Doctor, what would you like to say to the naysayers of this initiative and the Jendela rollout plan?
As I said, it's a plan that it's there. Okay, I wouldn't want to say that we will, it's a bad plan or it's a good plan. what's important is that it was a plan derived out of evidence, it's data driven, and we've laid out the plan. Today, we are executing the plan. And as in all plans, until the outcome can be seen, there will always be naysayers. Okay, and like it or not, where I am today, I will have to take the good, the bad, and the ugly.
How challenging has it been for you personally in the midst of a pandemic, and of course, you know, as chairman of MCMC as well?
Well, I would say it's a very enlightening and interesting journey. Okay, I never would have I thought that I would take on this job in a situation when we are fighting an invisible enemy. So when people used to talk about World War II, we say, okay, I watch TV, I read books, I listen to the old folks talking about it, thinking that I'll never have to go to war. Today, we are actually at war.
But we didn't have an MCMC then. We do now.
Well, so we all try to improve. Okay,
yeah.
That is how life goes. And today the responsibility is on MCMC. It's a huge responsibility. We try to work with everybody. We hear the complaints of the people. We try to solve them as best as we can. And we also need to manage the expectation that not in all cases can we solve the problem instantaneously. Some we'll have to tell them and say, look, it takes you a bit of time, and this is what we are doing. And for most people, I think it's human nature that they accept that if something is being done, I'm cool with it. Okay, they will be angry when they feel that nothing is being done. Okay, so it's all about going down to the ground, and whenever we have a complaint, trust me, my team on every state will go there within 24 hours of getting that complaint.
Please explain to us that process as well, because now with everyone working from home and children on the PDRP, I'm sure there are many instances of issues with their connectivity or online learning in general, or if they would like to make a report or a complaint of a certain nature.
People can make complaints through a variety of means. The official way is to lodge an aduan at MCMC or aduan at SKMM, but people like to go to social media a lot more. Okay, and therefore we too pick up. We do scan the social media on a daily basis to pick up the complaints that people raise. So, like I gave you like an example I mentioned just now. Say in Tanah Merah, they didn't complain to us. They complained to the media. So the media then viraled the story of the father building a campsite on top of a hill. Okay, and the team actually went there within 24 hours of us picking up that that story. Okay?
Is MCMC the friendly bear or the eagle that's watching every single
I think
movement?
we like to deal with a friendly bear. Okay, and we are a friendly fast bear. Okay, we're not. At the same time, we do watch, okay, not to the point of looking for faults, but looking out for challenges and issues that pops up and quickly fix it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fazul, for joining our conversation today. That has been my conversation with Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, Chairman of MCMC, on the issue of home-based teaching and learning, PdPR, and of course the nation's way forward, all in perspective of the National Digital Connectivity Plan, Jendela. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.